Welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard. I want to begin today's episode with a statement that may sound unusual. Some of the most talented people in the world are invisible because they lack ability, or they lack intelligence, not because they lack opportunity either. They are invisible because they are afraid of being seen. Think about that for a moment. How many people are carrying ideas they never share? How many people have dreams they never pursue? And how many people have gifts they never fully develop? And how many people spend years imagining what could be possible while never taking the first step toward making it a reality? The answer is probably far more than we realize. And the reason is often surprisingly simple. They are afraid of what other people might think. When we talk about fear, we usually talk about fear of failure. We talk about fear of losing, fear of making mistakes, fear of rejection, or fear of uncertainty. But underneath many of these fears is something deeper: the fear of being seen, the fear of stepping into the light and allowing others to witness what happens next. Because once people can see us, they can elevate us. They can criticize us, they can misunderstand us, they can disagree with us, they can reject us. And for many people that possible, it will feel unbearable. What makes this fear particularly interesting is that it affects almost everyone. Athletes experience this. Teachers, parents, leaders, students, creators, they all experience it. The details may be different, but the emotional experience is remarkably similar. Consider an athlete standing at the free throw line with seconds remaining in a close game. The athlete is not afraid of the free throw itself. They have practiced thousands of free throws, probably. They understand the mechanics, they know the routine. What they fear is missing in front of everyone. They fear being seen fail. That distinction matters. The pressure often has less to do with the task itself and more to do with the possibility of public failure. The same thing happens outside of sport. A teacher has an innovative idea but hesitates to share it. A student knows the answer but avoids raising their hand. A professional has a business idea but never acts on it. A leader sees a problem but remains silent. A creator has something meaningful to contribute but never publishes it. In each case, the obstacle is not necessarily ability. The obstacle is exposure. It is the risk that comes with being visible. One of the most fascinating questions we can ask is why the opinions of others hold so much power over us. Why can a comment from a stranger affect our mood? Why can criticism linger for years? Why do some people spend enormous amounts of energy trying to manage how they are perceived? Part of the answer is that human beings naturally desire acceptance. We want to belong. We want to be respected. We want to be understood. These desires are not weaknesses, they are part of being human. The challenge arises when acceptance becomes more important than authenticity. When that happens, people begin making decisions based on approval rather than conviction. They say what is expected, they do what is expected, they pursue what is expected. Gradually, they build a life that looks successful from the outside while feeling disconnected from who they truly are. This may be one of the greatest hidden costs of fear. It doesn't simply prevent action, it prevents authenticity. People stop asking, "What do I believe?" and begin asking, "What will people think?" People stop asking, what am I called to do?" and begin asking, "What will be accepted?" People stop asking what is right and begin asking what is safe. Over time, fear becomes a quiet architect of life decisions. Not because it's loud, because it's subtle. Perhaps this is why so much potential remains unrealized. The greatest tragedy is not criticism. The greatest tragedy is unrealized potential. The athlete who never takes the shot, the leader who never leads, the teacher who never innovates, the entrepreneur who never starts, the artist who never creates, the writer who never publishes, the individual who never becomes who they might have become because they spent their life trying to avoid discomfort. Every meaningful accomplishment requires vulnerability. Every meaningful relationship requires vulnerability. And every meaningful contribution requires vulnerability. There is no path towards significance that avoids exposure. At some point, we must accept the possibility of criticism if we want to make a meaningful impact. This doesn't mean criticism feels good, doesn't. It can be painful. It can be discouraging. It can be unfair. But criticism is often the price of visibility, and visibility is often the price of contribution. One of the most liberating realizations in life is understanding that people are probably not thinking about us nearly as much as we imagine. Most people are busy worrying about their own lives, their own insecurities, their own challenges, their own fears. The spotlight we imagine is often much smaller than we think. Yet, many people spend years making decisions as though the entire world is watching. Imagine how much freedom becomes available when that realization finally sinks in. Imagine how differently you might live if you stop trying to manage every opinion. And imagine how differently you might lead, how differently you might coach, how differently you might teach, how differently you might create and live. Faith offers a powerful perspective on this issue. One of the recurring themes throughout faith is the importance of identity. Human worth is not determined by popularity, applause, recognition, or approval. Those things come and go. Public opinion changes, success changes, circumstances change. If our identity depends upon external approval, our confidence will always remain fragile. At some point, every person must decide whose voice matters most. That is one of the defining questions of life. Not whether people have opinions, they will. Or not whether people criticize, they will. Not whether people misunderstand, because sometimes they will. The real question is whether those voices will determine how we live. Because freedom is not reaching a point where nobody criticizes you, that day never comes. Freedom is reaching a point where criticism no longer controls you, where your values are stronger than your fears, where your purpose is stronger than your desire for approval, where your identity is rooted in something deeper than public opinion. As I grow older, I become increasingly convinced that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is choosing action despite fear. Every athlete feels fear. Every leader feels fear. Every teacher feels fear, as every parent feels fear. The difference is that some people allow fear to make decisions for them, while others move forward anyway. That's courage. Not perfection, not certainty, movement. As we close today's episode, I want you to think about this question. Imagine yourself 20 years from now looking back on your life. Would you regret more? The criticism you received or the opportunities you never pursued because you were afraid of criticism? My suspicion is that most people do not regret being seen. They regret hiding. They regret the conversations they never had, the opportunities they never pursued, the risks that they never took, the dreams they never explored, the version of themselves they never allowed the world to see. Perhaps the goal is not becoming someone nobody judges. Perhaps the goal is becoming someone who is no longer controlled by the judgment. Because the moment we stop living for the approval of others is often the moment we begin living authentically. Thank you for joining me for episode 9 of Beyond the Scoreboard. Until next time, continue pursuing excellence, continue investing in people, and remember that some of life's most important lessons are found beyond the scoreboard.